And we are live. Good morning. Hello, everybody watching. Anybody watching on replay, it's really great to have you here with us. It is the 11th of February and we are in Sedgemoor. It's really great to be back. It's been a few weeks since I've been with you. And I am joined this morning by one of my lovely agents within the Sedgemoor team, Daniel.
Good morning.
Thanks, Daniel, for being brave enough to join me, even though you are the newest member of Team Sedgemoor. I've managed to twist your arm, haven't I?
Absolutely.
It's so wonderful. You're here with us this morning, Daniel, because in a past life, previous work that you have done, you are
I have been and I am a qualified forest school coordinator. Yes. So it's an interesting subject to talk about, and that is what we will be discussing today. And yes, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Great. So we thought this would be a really great idea because we've got half term coming up in Somerset next week. And so I can imagine that there'll be lots of parents looking for things to do with their children, and getting them outside safely is really important. So we're just going to talk a little bit today about forest school and what forest school is and how people can access forest schools. So shall we start, Dan, by telling everybody watching, what is forest school?
Forest school is a way. If I say how it was originated in Scandinavia, then kind of widely adopted in around Denmark in the 1980s, and it was made initially as a solution for the lack of indoor facilities for preschool children, and in and around those European areas, it turned out to be something that was really productive, really proactive, well embraced by lots and lots of people. So that positivity traveled, and then a group of nursery nurses, as well as lecturers, almost like a large kind of multi-skills coordinate for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 children. They visited Sweden at the time, and they joined in, assessed, and realized that there was huge benefits. And then they brought that back to the UK, and they designed the first forest school program, and that was aimed at younger children and the Key Stage 1 up to kind of Key Stage 2, and just basically promoting the wonderful things about outdoor learning and how the focus and the mindset changes if you aren't within the four walls of a classroom initially. So from that, the forest school program was born and introduced into UK schools. And from then on, it's kind of grown and grown and grown, and now offers primarily in the education sector, but also offers a huge amount of benefits to up to kind of young adults and beyond, especially people with LD and autism, which is where I came into forest school, but also now assisting people with certain mental health needs, people with post-traumatic disorders, and the sensory side of it has become hugely relevant, as well as confidence building, promoting independence, and just basically looking things from a different way instead of being, like I said, inside four walls. Going into an expansive area and tackling projects and thought processes from that side of thing.
Fantastic. So you mentioned a little bit there, Dan, about how you got into being a practitioner.
That's right, yeah.
But do you want to go and tell us a little bit more? What was the training like? How can anybody become a forest school practitioner?
Yeah, they certainly can. If you are working within a field that's that forest school become a very handy cog in your tool of supply to people. I was, at that moment in time, I was working in the autism sector with adults, and where we were, there was a rather large, 6 acres of woodland, quite diverse woodland, broadleaf as well as everything else. And it was ripe for growing a forest school. There was a forest school that was there before. It was a gentleman that I was working with that's is quite large in the forest school world now, and he was doing 1 day a week. He left to pursue his own goals, and I kind of took up the mantle from him, really. And yeah, it was at the time I went into Exmoor into a forest school program, and I was going 1 day a week initially while I was trying to build the forest school up in the autism sector. That was every Monday that I was going over there and doing a lot of practical stuff. And also there was a huge amount of coursework that we did as well, almost like a kind of MVQ, I'd say, like a dozen, really quite big, extensive essays, a provision of evidence with regards to GDPR, safe photos and that sort of thing, just to prove your confidence and competence to be able to run forest school sessions moving forward. As I said, when I did mine, even though I was working with adults on the autistic spectrum, still a lot of the things were aimed at children. But as forest school has progressed and grown, the benefits to people on the autistic spectrum, people with LD and other need bases, there's always something within forest school that can be found that would be a niche to benefit and grow that person with their own confidence and their own personality. It can be a very person-centered thing, the forest school experience. And sometimes with regards to making sure that people are happy, the outdoors almost wins that battle for you. The sensory side of things, like the wind going through the trees, the sun coming through the leaves, the breeze on your face, that sort of thing is is very calming, and allowing someone to sit, focus, and then almost seek out their own adventures in a woodland, or so obviously if there's things that are provided for people to do if they wish to. It's really a proactive and positive environment for people.
Fantastic. So perhaps we'll talk a little bit more about benefits and your experience of how people have reacted in a minute, but I'll just mention some of the comments. We've got some of our lovely colleagues watching this morning, and it's really funny because Hannah's put a comment on. She did some work in early years around outdoor play.
Oh, wonderful.
She was saying that forest schools in Scotland and Scandinavia don't go outside if it's dangerously minus temperatures. And she has put something that Jane, who is also watching, said to me last week, and that is that the motto is there is no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
Just bad clothing. Yeah, that's what we said all the time.
Cold. Yeah.
One thing I did do around the safety of that sort of thing is there was always things about wind speeds. Because obviously we were in a woodland and what have you, we always monitored wind speeds. And with regards to the many risk assessments that I wrote and put in place with my forest school, controlled risks are always acceptable, but there's other risks that always have got to be addressed and addressed properly. The wind was one thing that we couldn't get rid of. Yes, there was lots of people, especially people that were on the autistic spectrum, that chose despite the weather. I mean, if it was very cold like this, or even if we had rain, they would dress up accordingly, and we would always find something that was fun or proactive or educational to do. But yeah, that was the one thing, going back to the lady that mentioned that about sometimes you did have to stay in. It was very rare, but winds were one of the ones that we always made sure that was we'd find something else to do, like the slides that we've got as well. We'd find something else to do to still stay within the forest school theme, but keep ourselves safe.
Perfect. And I expect, Dan, that if parents are thinking about getting their children out into the forest next week or the woodland areas, might be a good idea for them to check their weather apps on their phone. You can check wind speed there.
Absolutely, yeah. And also the fact that not that it's a massive concern with regards to the clothing side of things, but obviously we've had a lot of rain, and there's certain pathways, etc., that are very muddy, so the right clothing, like we just discussed, and that sort of thing. But obviously slip prevention and that, etc., etc. But yeah, there's always great fun. And I think, irrespective of anything else that's going on in the world, if young people, if children get the opportunity to see an expansive woodland and that sort of thing, all their eyes are going to open wide. They're going to smile and they're going to run into it with huge adventures pending.
Absolutely. So in terms of safety precautions, then, that was one of my questions. You spoke about wind speeds and the terrain underneath your feet. And appropriate clothing. Is there any other safety precautions that parents should be taking, or adults wanting to go out into wooded areas?
A lot of the stuff that I was doing with regards to risk assessments, yes, every single day that I was running forest school sessions, there was a certain visual risk assessments that I'd always do. The woodlands that I was working in were obviously a wild and growing place, ever changing. And therefore there's certain things that, that we needed to check with regards to everyone's well-being, because, part and parcel of forest school and part and parcel of the woodlands is a sense of freedom. So visual risk assessments were always taken into place with regards to everything that was written down and signed by everyone concerned. But a lot of the other risk assessments is the forest schools that I ran were quite hands-on. There was quite a few tools that people were using, not necessarily because of the fact that they could really get a huge amount out of creating something, but also it was a wonderful way to develop people's fine or gross motor skills, using certain tools as well, and also developing confidence and competence around tool use. So naturally, as I'm sure you guess, there was lots of PPE that we had in place. Sometimes with people on the autistic spectrum, the PPE was something that took a while to get used to. It's a different sense having safe gloves, or all that sort of thing, or different protection in place. But if you really wanted to make sure that you had an all-encompassing, all-welcoming forest school, then patience and gentle persuasion would always kind of win out in the end, purely because you're offering something that you feel, because you get to know everyone on a person-centered basis, is something that they would feel they would enjoy. More often than not, that was a winner, and people would, and those skills were developed, those confidences were developed, and because they wanted to show other people, that they developed necessary skills as well, their confidence around others would develop as well, which became an all-encompassing group. Then we had the opportunity, as time goes on, to develop teamwork and the confidences that came with that, and the communication that came with that. It was a winner on many levels, and it was a very proactive and positive time. The social side of it, as well as the physical side of it, the intellectual side of it, the emotional side of it, and obviously outside in the woodlands, the spiritual nature of it as well. All those things blended up, made for something that a lot of people had a huge amount of fun with.
Absolutely. So if people are watching this at home and thinking of ways that they can encourage their children or their loved ones to have some time outdoors in these areas, are there any activities, Dan, that are quite simple for people to do that they might be able to?
The simple stuff, really. I'll have a little think. Yeah, obviously, when a lot of people think of forest school, they think about the den building side of things, which is always great. You can build all sorts of different things, even if it's just a case of leaning something up, against something, and just having like a little shelter that people can use and their imaginations can grow. I mean, there's lots of people that prefer like a TP method with the whole kind of den building side of things, and that sort of thing comes out. A lot of the stuff that we used to do in the woodlands that I was in was built around conservation as well, clearing things up and making things good in that respect. I always, people always used to like to do things with regards to the animals as well, the flora and the fauna was always a big important thing for me, and trying to, although not interfere in the seasons where it became essential, possibly coming up to those seasons, more so in the summertime, we used to, you used to put little things together to make life easier for animals to hibernate, for argument's sake, on top of the levels, on ground level, put things together that that in time to come, in the weeks in the future, like a hedgehog or whatever, you would love to clamber into and go up. Also, obviously, this was on private land. We didn't ever forget the bugs and stuff as well. So we used to build what's called hibernaculums, which were an underground tunnel source that offered shelter for the smaller bugs as well. But there's lots and lots of different things that that people can always do. But I think the main part of it really is to capitalize on a child's imagination, really, and let them think about what they were doing. Let them go through the thought processes. It's a wonderful thing to be able to go out into these environments and think, what am I going to do now? How can we do this? And then obviously, if there's a multitude of children, they can discuss with each other, and it just tends to flow. Really, the ideas just tend to flow. It's capitalizing on the thought processes that people can really use. When they're kind of engaging in in fun mode, the great ideas can come out because they want them to come out at that sort of time.
Absolutely.
I mean, some ones that we can't go in, obviously, when we're walking into public land, certain things, that forest school, for argument's sake, goes into with regards to kind of cooking around a fire and that sort of thing. I mean, I know sometimes, the great wood in places like that, still allow that sort of thing. Well, they did do, pre-COVID or what have you. But I mean, a lot of the things is just engage in your own mindset and, in getting into kind of a learning zone and blending that with a comfort zone and getting the best out of it in the time that you've got, really.
Absolutely. So perhaps I can share my screen in a wee while, Dan, and we can have a look at some of the trails, because I think they're a fantastic idea. But just a couple of comments. Yeah. Lisa, our lovely Lisa, is watching, and she has said that she's done a few forest school sessions, and that her favourite bit is stopping to have a break and hot chocolate.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's funny she should say that, to be honest with you, because like I said, when we were going back to the bits where some people turn up at forest school as individuals and all of a sudden after a certain amount of sessions become a team with others, that's stopping, like she said, and having hot chocolate, or even the other end of it, like, when you can make together like big soups and stews and things like that, time dependent, food, and everyone takes part in putting those things together. It's another way where people not only can have fun doing what they wish to do within a forestal setting, but they can also, enjoy the company of others and compare the fun that they've had. So even though, like Lisa said, which is absolutely right, it's a wonderful time for a lot of people, there's no shortage of benefits and proactive things that come from that as well.
Absolutely. And then we've got Vanessa watching as well this morning, and she has put a comment on, and she's also kindly put a link on for us, all about making mandalas in forest schools. So I'll go and take a look at that. Thank you, Vanessa. So bear with me. I'm going to try and share my screen. Dan has kindly found some things for us to share with you. So let me just get the right page up. Can you see that okay, Dan?
Yeah, we're on the leaf hunt at the moment. This is the thing.
So tell us about the leaf hunt. How can
where I was, there was plenty of broadleaf as well as coniferous trees. So these sort of things were wonderful, really. It got people moving, which was a wonderful thing, especially if the weather is somewhat inclement. But also, there's an opportunity to differentiate between the different trees. Instead of just seeing trees themselves, you can see the difference of them and the uses and the different things that they've got and how they grow, how they form, how they contribute themselves into a woodland. And there's numerous different leaves that we've got that are commonplace in and around our woodlands, forests, etc. And it's nice for children, young adults, whomever wishes to take part can go in, almost like play Snap, with it as many of the different ones as possible, and bring them back. Often that turns into collages that we can do as well.
Painting them, paint printing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that one sheet of A4 there that's that people can use can blend into many other different things, all of which are fun, and all of which give a proactive, positive, encouraging challenge for whoever to think further into themselves.
Absolutely. So you can almost get a whole day out of it, can't you? A couple of hours in the morning.
If you really wanted to, yeah, you could easily. This is fun as well. There's lots of different things. There's always an educational side of forest school. I've always been a great believer of, they're like the leave no trace method as well. So although I had a proactive run-in forest school there, you wouldn't know. And because, we always respected the outdoor area that we used and always looked after it as if, because in fairness, the way that I looked at it, the woodland that I worked, it was the biggest and most valuable team member we had. But there was often fun, instead of looking up, you can always look down as well. And you can learn about not only what lived within the woodland, but also their contribution towards the whole kind of, the climate that we were in. This sort of thing as well is great fun now, with areas that are covered in snow. You can often go out and you can track different things in the snow, as well as you could the prints that are left in kind of muddy pathways and stuff. And you can spot which animals there, and then discuss it and its lifestyles and how it acts in the whole system of events within a woodland.
Fantastic. And some butterflies.
Yeah, this is also a wonderful thing to do as well. There's always beautiful things that can be spotted, in and around the woodland areas, and notwithstanding, the common and also the rarer butterflies as well. They're very inspirational. They're incredibly sensory creatures, as well as you can shut your eyes and listen to bird song. You can find even, the most anxious person captivated by the colors and the movements of, a simple butterfly. They can change the course of someone's attitude towards that session, especially if they wish to kind of stay in the background and not really contribute. There's been times where like a red admiral or something, or a cabbage white is just fluttered in front of them, and it's just more than any words can say. It's just changed things around completely.
Amazing.
This is always fun. Loads and loads of assessments around it, to be honest with you, just to cover every basis. But studying the amphibians, pond watching, pond dipping, things like that. I was always a looker more so than a toucher, to be honest with you, sort of thing. More so, not because there was ever any kind of issues around it. There was always things to be put in place, but I always found our waterborne creatures somewhat sacred, and I just rather watch from afar. And there's lots and lots of lessons that can be learned and education that can be had just by viewing. Just by viewing amphibians, our frogs, toads, newts, tadpoles, lots of other things. I mean, there's a wonderful environment, an incredibly interesting area in a woodland. But if you get a pond, the lists and the adventures are absolutely endless. I mean, the life that's the lives that are born out every day in and around a pond or even a larger body of water, it beggars belief. You could that's what started up beach school, to be honest with you. Forest school was after about 10 years or so. There was a beach school that followed, and that's just as proactive and productive. There's so many kids that are enjoying that sort of thing as well, and all the different kind of shell watches, the tides, the geology, the geography, everything that comes in and around the beach school sides as well. That was always born from bodies of water in forest school, that led to the diversities of beaches and saltwater creatures, and a whole other adventure was born from that.
Amazing. And very topical, we are hopefully coming up to the first time of spring. So I have seen my first daffodils in the last week, so that was lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
The first signs of spring is always fun. Obviously, that borns into summer and autumn and winter. That these things come through. I must say, the source for this is the Woodland Trust. It's the Nature Detectives. There is so many different sheets like this that can be accessed and utilized. The Woodland Trust is a wonderful, wonderful thing. They're hugely helpful when it comes to any kind of educational like this. There's so many different and diverse and levels that they offer. I mean, they really should be applauded for it. It's easily to get hold of online if anyone wants to take part in anything outdoors in any way, shape or form moving forward, especially when we're freer to do so as well. But going back to this one, the seasons, especially in forest school, are very important things, because it means it not only does it maximize some things that you can do, there's always limitations on other things that you can do as well, because the most important thing is the woodland, is the forest, and is the animals that live there. We are there to help the woodlands, we're there to help the forest, we're there to do what we can without interfering, and that's born of the flora and the fauna as well. So recognizing the first signs of spring, with regards to like forest school and all of us, really is not only a beautiful thing with its sights and its smells, but there's also a sense of responsibility that goes with it as well.
Perfect. And then this one, some trees.
Yeah, it goes along with the leaves, to be honest with you. There's lots of different things that you can recognize with the bark, and obviously that sort of thing as well. Thinking back to the times when I was working with people on the autistic spectrum, it's not only the different colors and everything that comes with the different barks and the different textures of the wood, but also the touches are a wonderful thing as well, because obviously oak is very, very different from beech, and yew is also different from like a sycamore. But it's a fantastic thing that we can do, as well as covering over, the paper and getting those indentations and everything when you're going over gently with like a HB pencil over paper and all different things from there as well. It's a lovely educational side of things, but the texture, the touch, and the sensory levels, that can come from trees when you're working alongside people who it's unimaginable how acute their sensory levels are, and it's allowing them to be at one with with nature, and the different aspects that can be benefited from that is second to none.
Perfect. And then I'll come back later and add some of these links into the comments for anybody watching. But I'll include this list from Badger Trust, which Dan has showed me, and it's got lots of activity. Yeah. And I thought that these were really nice, because I do appreciate that the outdoors isn't accessible to everyone right now. So perhaps a little bit of indoor forest school with these sorts of sheets would be fantastic. And then just before I stop sharing my screen, I just thought it'd be worth Dan touching on the current coronavirus restrictions, because I know people might be nervous about getting outside, but it does very clearly state that you can go outside. And actually, if I find a thing here, interestingly, it does state that forests is one of the public outdoor places where you can take some exercise. So just worth familiarizing yourself with the rules, of who you can be outdoors with, but you are more than within your rights to go to a forest or another outdoor space that's acceptable to you, as long as you're not going too far outside your local area, to enjoy some time outdoors, especially next week with half term coming up. Right, I'll stop sharing my screen and just check that there's been no more comments. If anybody is watching and wants to ask a question, or you're on replay and you want to ask something a bit later today or in the week, please do leave a comment. I'll keep coming back and checking on them, and I'll ask Dan any questions that you might have if I can't answer them. Is there anything else, Dan, that we haven't covered that you might want to say before we finish up?
No, I think we've covered all the essentials that are necessary and the advantages and the responsibilities of not just like a forest school per se, but enjoying open spaces and woodlands. But yeah, I can only echo what you've said. Really, if there is any questions or anything else or links or anything that you'd like to ask, I'm more than happy to facilitate anything that you need me to, either myself or through Lauren. Please feel free and enjoy.
Absolutely, please do. Our telephone number's running along the bottom of the screen there. If you are watching this and you would really like to access the outdoors, but there are any barriers to you doing so, please do give us a ring. We might be able to help, might be able to support you in getting outdoors. Just before we finish, Dan, we can only speak for Sedgemoor, but are there any really great areas? You mentioned Greatwood. I tend to go to
Greatwood's lovely.
Anywhere else?
Fine Court's a beautiful place. Beautiful. Ralph's Wood on Brent Knoll is a lovely place. Going more north, Sedgemoor, obviously, Western Woods as well is a fantastic place. Always enter everywhere with caution, like you said. I mean, check how many cars are parked, and that sort of thing. But I mean, at this present moment in time, it's easy to stay within policies and guidelines when one is doing, the allotted exercise that people can do. But yeah, there's lots and lots of places, that one can. But don't forget, like the beach side of things as well. There's lots of things that can be accessed and great fun. Everyone kind of enjoys the beach, but there's so much more to it as well. But Ralph's Wood has always been wonderful on Brent Knoll. And Western Woods as well as Fine Court, as well as Greatwood. They're huge, diverse. Kingscliff is a lovely one as well. But a huge range of kind of broadleaf and coniferous trees that have got the diversities with it as well, with regards to the the fauna that comes with it. But yeah, there's lots of fun to be had, but with as much caution as one can exercise in present times. And hopefully we can touch wood and think, when things are lifted more, then there's a wonderful, expansive lot of fun out there for everyone to have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for coming and sharing.
It's been a pleasure, Lauren.
I'm really looking forward to half term next week. I've got a couple of days off, and I'm definitely going to get outside with the children and do some
good for you.
And print off some of those trails and get them out spotting some
absolutely
things. That'd be lovely. Great. Well, thank you so much. And to everybody watching, thank you for being with us. And anybody on replay, thank you for joining us. We will catch up with you again next Thursday, I should think. Perhaps not Dan. I won't drag him on again, but I'll be here soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.